The next time you think that you're being lazy, or you hear someone saying that they think they're lazy, take a step back and just try to notice something. Are those people who actually complain about being lazy are actually people who are lazy? Because most of the time, those people who complain about being lazy are actually the ones who truly hate being lazy the most. Just think about it. Whenever you weren't able to do something, you'd always replay that thought into your brain and tell yourself that you just do it tomorrow, soon, and next time. Sometimes it doesn't even let you sleep because you'd feel real guilty about not being able to accomplish it. Now, do you think that that's something someone who doesn't even care would be even thinking about? See? You wouldn't even make a problem out of it. And if that's something you experience, then maybe it's because you've been using the wrong term in defining what we would usually consider as laziness. A few years back, psychologists actually started paying more attention to something interesting. Do you know that the actual people experiencing burnout aren't actually working less? In fact, a lot of them are actually working a lot more than how they normally do. It's just that it's actually not on the things that truly matter. They'd keep checking on their notifications, reply to messages, organize random stuff, clean the house, play, and whatever diversional type of activity you can actually think of. Because they're literally doing everything you can think of except that one task they actually need and truly wanted to do. Now, on others' perspective, it might look like they're just procrastinating, but that's not what it actually is. It's more like trying to drive a car while the handbrake is still on. That's literally like having an engine running, but the wheels simply can't move no matter how much you step on the gas. And that's basically what burnout feels like. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who's ever experienced something like that at least once in our lives, right? Just think about it for a sec. You might not realize it now, but if you think real deep, that might actually be the reality, and you simply didn't notice or interpret it that way. But see, if you've thought of something, then you would be able to relate that sometimes when we actually do feel lazy, sometimes, I mean sometimes, okay? Because sometimes we're actually just really lazy. But there are times when it's honestly not even about our lack of desire anymore. It's simply due to our lack of capacity, and realizing that makes a lot of difference. Nobody tells you this, but our brain actually doesn't measure stress the way we actually do. We often categorize and put labels in our stressors, but that's not how our brain actually interprets it. You got stressed at work, you got stressed on that game you played last night, you got stressed because you can't buy the bag you saw at the mall, that combo you had with your parents earlier stressed the hell out of you, and to you, those stressors may not be related to each other, but that's actually not how our brain interprets it. Instead, our brain just receives all of that as data and load. Let me give you an example. Imagine your way to work or school. You place one book and notebook at your bag that you will use for the day, and it just feels light, right? Then you add another book, but it's still manageable. But at some point in time, you kept adding more and more stuff in it. You place your lunchbox in, you place your water jug in, you placed your laptop in, a few more books, and now the bag started to feel a lot heavier. But the thing is, you'd still be able to walk, no? You might be even able to still run if you try. Which is why at the end of the day, regardless of the load we're experiencing, it doesn't necessarily mean we don't look okay outside or from someone else's perspective, and that's the problem. Even if you do can still tolerate the load you're carrying, every single step you do now would not be the same as the first step you took when the load was still a lot lighter. And that's basically how burnout usually happens. You don't just suddenly break down altogether because of one thing. It's because you kept stacking up all those low without giving yourself any time to recover and rest. Until one day, your brain and body just finally decides to just stop. Now, here's what actually makes it a lot more frustrating. Whenever you start feeling all that load stack up one by one, you'd notice yourself starting to slow down. You'd feel like you're having a hard time to focus, understand that one topic, and you'd even drag yourself just to do and even accomplish something. Then what? You decide that there's something wrong, and in turn, you'd feel the urge and need to simply push harder. In reality, though, that doesn't seem like a viable answer, since you'd obviously just blame yourself and whatever situation you were in during that time, and the odds that went against you. So the next time or the next day, you try waking up earlier, you try replanning your next step and move, you try listening to some motivational videos, you even try opening up your notes, Google Docs, and whatnot. Try to make a better schedule, a checklist, or maybe even reflect on what you've done and what needs to be done. But that's honestly not going to help at all. Because at that point in time, you're basically just trying to press the gas harder on a car that has its handbrake on. And guess what? Just like cars that have their handbrakes up, but their gear on drive, you'd still move. You'd move 5 kilometers per hour, 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers, or maybe even 20. Who knows? But the thing is, you're still moving. And that's the problem. You feel all that load in you, but you just try to tough it out. Push harder, think harder, sleep lesser without listening to your body. And when all else fails or doesn't meet your expectations, you'd start feeling down, compare yourself to others, until one day you just stop entirely. And that's the thing. You're probably doing this without realizing it, but you'd end up comparing the progress and things you've done while carrying all the load behind the scenes to the outcomes that everyone else just shows outside. And the problem is that all they show is the outcome. Well, maybe not all, but you just focus on the outcome anyways. And that's why that right there doesn't make it a fair comparison. I'm not sure if you'd feel the same way, but this is something I wish someone had told me sooner. During the times you're working on something, you'd start feeling lazy, bored, or even after you finish one part of what you need to do, you postpone the second part by doing something else first. You start watching some YouTube videos, you start scrolling on Instagram, you check and refresh your notifications, you'd play a game, you'd take your dog for a walk, and think that you rested. But the thing is, you just distracted yourself. And that distraction you just did, no matter what form it may be, that does not mean that you gave yourself time to recover. You might feel like you're a little bit more rested, but by the moment you start going back to the work you need to do, soon after, you just immediately feel tired, bored, and lazy again. Thus, just repeating the same cycle over and over again. I'm pretty sure you've already experienced this yourself as well at least once in your lifetime. And honestly, this is something I actually still do. Whenever you try to cram as much productivity as you can throughout the day, you'd reach a point in time where you'd say you'd rest early at 12 midnight, lights off, gadgets out, and you just lay in bed resting even if you can't sleep. Then what? You'd hit your bed, then you'd just start scrolling, watch random vids on YouTube, and the next thing you know, it's already 2 a.m. And you know what that is? You simply didn't want your day to end, because that would mean that tomorrow is already gonna arrive. You might have distracted yourself for a bit. You might think that you've rested at least physically or even mentally, but here's the thing. Your brain never did. Even while you're sleeping, it's still carrying and processing everything you never actually truly let go. And that's basically why no matter how much rest you believe you're taking, even if you slept 9 hours yesterday, you took the whole day off, you took a vacation, you still wake up feeling exhausted. And that's simply because you weren't actually recovering. You were simply surviving. And maybe that's the biggest misunderstanding we have about burnout. Most people think and integrate the term burnout when we already have completely stopped doing something. Like the moment you've truly just decided that you're done and you truly need to stop entirely already. But here's the thing. When you reach that point in time, it's actually already too late. And although that may also be true at times, most of the time it's just hiding itself in our ordinary days. Hiding on the days you still showed up to work, showed up to that presentation, showed up to the meeting, showed up to class, and you still answer that message. And even during those times, you tried your best to smile and look okay when someone asks you if you're okay even when you're dying inside already. Because at that point in time, you've simply already forgotten what it feels like to actually be on 100%. Because when you start making 5%, 10%, 20%, or even 1% as your new normal, you stop realizing that you're actually simply running on low output. Which is why the next time you feel like you're being lazy, don't just start blaming yourself. Instead, try asking yourself this one question. Is there something that you've been carrying all this time that you're actually not acknowledging? Because sometimes, when things go south and we can't really seem to make anything work, your first instinct is to just blame yourself. Because who else are we gonna blame, right? And that's where the problem begins. Because the moment you start getting used to treating burnout like it's some character flaw, you're never going to be able to see and treat burnout as what it actually is. I hope that one day you'd be able to finally categorize all those emotions and worries as a signal that you've been constantly asking more and more and more from yourself without really giving yourself any time to recover for real, instead of just integrating it as a failure. Because I hope that you'd one day realize that the person you've been trying so hard to blame, trying so hard to put down, and trying so hard to fix was never even really broken in the first place.